All right, we are back with Game 3 of the Grim Classic. Team Thierry Scooter Gang versus Team Dotsky, or Team 1. Team 1 has continued to sub pretty liberally. We've got Wheezy, Silicon Killer King in. That means Garrick is sitting out. As we mentioned, Akira and Kruniak were not able to make this particular match. So shout out to Team Donsky for keeping in spirit with the tournament and making sure everybody gets a good chance to play. Down 2-0. Team Seeker is getting serious, as you'd expect. Last shot at turning this thing around. So we've got what probably is the best possible lineup. Based on who showed up this week, I think you could sub in Retless for a couple of folks, and it'd be a pretty even trade. But clearly, it's time to get serious and see if we can turn this into a closer series. Fast forwarding a bit, we'll just check out the UT. While I do that, shout out to Limp and H&P or one or both of you, whoever enabled me to zoom out further on this map. Definitely appreciate that. On the side of Seeker, we've got 8 archers, slightly less than max warriors in 22. The potential to get max pus, that you can always sink a white, a bunch of thrall, and a single dwarf. So big emphasis, I can already tell, on occupying up space, controlling the map, and playing the game type. Flip it over to Donsky's side. Again, more artillery. So we've got 12 archers, 2 dwarfs, max warriors, and then almost no thrall. 1 dwarf extra, in addition to having 4 extra archers. Without the thrall, basically this trade says to me that Team Donsky wants to win a BC fight early, before the thrall can get into position. And the bet here is that, again, you're able to take out enough of the enemy that having fewer thrall to contest doesn't matter, because your units can basically spread out and clean up, and then win over time. Speeding up a bit, pretty standard distributions. It does look like Team Donsky is going to sink 2 whites. So we've got Shyster on 1 white, Donsky on another. We've got mixed squads for both teams. It actually looks a little bit like a mirror strat. So you've got archers and warriors mid, archers and warriors south. Same thing for Team Donsky. And then we've got this massive thrall wall heading up here on the northern side. Limp is also running a goal pack, so there's the potential to cause some trouble getting to the backfield. It looks like Donsky's team is a bit more vulnerable to those types of shenanigans because they don't have a whole lot on flag defense. But by the same token, you've got an archer advantage mid with Vasil, where you've got 6 archers versus PK's 4, and then you've got an archer advantage south, as well as a warrior advantage. So, kind of as we talked about in the PT, real question here is going to be, how effective can Donsky's team be with these, body count or BC advantages versus, how slowly can Team Seeker play to get these thrall into position to, get a commanding flag time lead. You can see they're up 6 flags to 4. Shouldn't be sustainable. They should be pretty easily pushed off of this mid flag. But it will certainly be interesting to see how that goes. Okay, so some goals have gotten in behind. So you do have Wheezy in behind with Killer King and Shyster now pushing in, along with Silic. So, Thierry and Monty are in a tough spot. Thierry calls out that it's a rush. I think he probably wanted Monty to retreat with him north. That doesn't happen. So, again, Thierry's trying to decide whether to commit or not. If he commits, I think he's in trouble. You do have Shyster sticking this white into a forward pond, which is quite nice. Potentially could do some big damage. So first big play of the match here. Again, no one has died yet. Shyster consistently has been pussing pretty good in these games. Comes in and just gets a really good puss on the Monty. So Monty's 13% of the team. All but 2 of his archers get pussed. Thierry at this point had already made the call. His puss had already backed out. So he's pretty much dead. At the same time, on the northern flank, Donsky does choose to white Homer. I don't know if whiting for Thrall there is good or bad. It's probably not terrible just because there's not a whole lot else on the northern side of the map. Maybe you get lucky and wipe the goal pack, but you know, who really knows if that works. So pausing it here, though, we talked about the need to win the BC fight early. Based on just totally wiping Monty out, they do, on the team of Donsky, have a 10% lead. They're also winning the mid fight. So even though they're down about a minute and a half on time, they're in a pretty decent spot, all things considered. A thing that worries me a bit is you do have this goal pack. I think if Donsky can get the 3 Thrall and Warrior clumped up, he'd be able to contest. But as we talked about earlier, there's no home D on that southern flag, so it'll be interesting to see if that gets punished. So this is interesting. I don't know what these units are doing, so I'm not sure what Shyster and Argos were trying to decide there. They're just kind of hanging out a bit, deciding where to go. Killer King eventually decides to push mid. I think... At this point, an interesting play would have been, you see these Thralls sneak up behind. I think it would have been interesting to see if Tiri and Asmo, along with PK, committed to rushing this. I think they are favored to win the fight, but you have this white, which could have been a real game changer. So they decide not to do it. The goal pack is taking a commanding lead on the backside flags. So 8 flags to 2. Really big flag discrepancies like this matter a lot. So right now, even though Donsky's team's up 10, the fact that they are kind of concentrated here in the eastern side and they've lost control of their backs is kind of putting them, it should be setting off alarm bells. So they quickly redistribute. You know, ours does a good job here of recognizing he's got to go off and back off mid and pursue some tags. Donsky is able to retake one of their home flags, and you've finally got some contesters getting on the home flags of Team Seeker. But they built themselves a nice lead. So considering how poorly that first southern flank went, you'd be pretty happy to only be down 10% and to be up in flags as well as overall time. So Thrall are now officially in position. So you've got good defense on your back flags. Have your Seekers team, even though this goal pack has finally chased you off home. But I think you got to feel good about it. As you'd expect. I mean, you're still even in flags. Even though you're down in percent, you do have a positional advantage. And Donsky's team has a whole lot of concentration here mid. So you got Vasil. Oh, unfortunately, this white gets tagged. So Zach is going to be able to take that white down. But if you look at the mid forest, you got Vasil mid, you got Argos mid, you got Shyster mid. That's the vast majority, as well as Argos. Vast majority of the units. I mean, that's something like 43%. So more than half their force is concentrated in an area where you're only controlling 2 flags. Ours is here too. So virtually the entire team is concentrated mid. You've got a couple Thrall south. You've got a couple of very red Thrall north. And then you've got some goals in the backfield. Other than that, you're super concentrated. Where on the side of Seeker's team, even though you're similarly concentrated, you're in a position where you're able to control more flags. Tiri is basically blocking these forces in mid, which in effect seals this south, both west flags for his team. So really the only way that Dante's team can even up that flag advantage is by controlling both of the eastern flags, which you can see they're trying to do. Super even percentages. Interesting fight here mid. Ooh, that would have been a nice dwarf bottle. Unfortunately, it does. Very good pus from PK. Is actually going to cut into the sleeve quite a bit. The dwarf does manage to live with just a sliver of health. But we've got Homer flanking around here with the pus as well. Great pus. That rivals Shyster's on there. That was probably a 10% lead. He killed 2 dwarves and an archer. So really big pus there on the side of Homer. So nice job. Still very close. 3 minutes left in the game. You know, it's anyone's game. It's a minute difference from a time perspective. Super even in flags. I will point out that even though the percentages are even, You got 17% in archers and a journeyman, where the rest of the percentages, even though you've got a couple of archers still alive, the majority of Seekers units that are still alive are taggers. So they're Thrall, they're your gold pack, they're your warriors. This force for Vaz should be doing something. He's sort of just camping at the minute. I think he's worried he'd get rushed by Tiri. And that's kind of the problem with this many archers still alive. They didn't win the BC fight. They didn't have a big enough percentage lead for them to do much. So this looks like it should play out in Team Seeker's favor from here on, but they're still down in flags. So not over by any stretch. Couple interesting things here as we fast forward. Donsky manages to retake this on the northern side, and he's about to have 4 warriors versus Tiri's 3. You got 2 here and 1 on the flag, and then you've got Tiri pressuring mid, which in theory, if you look at this, you've got a Puss and 6 archers and a journeyman versus a Puss and 4 warriors. You would think that Vaz should be able to take this. If that happens, then this western flag and the mid flag are going to go over in favor of Team Donsky, which, if that were to happen, would even this up. They do, at this point, have a 2-minute flag lead as well. So with a minute and a half, I think this fight and then this fight on the western side are going to be key. This gold dancing should be able to continue to dance for quite a while. So Puss goes down from Vaz, doesn't get a ton done. Tiri here is able to clean up the journeyman, and he's got a Puss left over. So big Puss here, manages to get 2 of those archers Puss, and importantly, he's controlling this flag. So whether or not these live or die, it looks like they're actually going to be able to clean up the archers. Doesn't really matter because he's got control of the flag. So 8 flags to 4. Even though there's 55 seconds left and a 40-second lead, really big flag lead, is going to allow Seeker's team to be in a pretty good spot. Good Puss here from ours, but I just don't think he's got enough melee here to really do much. They're able to unfreeze. He can continue to contest, but he's not able to do it. This fight is interesting. So Donsky actually had a vet. So it's 3v3. One of Donsky's warriors has already died. I think Donsky should win this. Very nice micro on the side of Tiri. Donsky's probably in many places at once being the captain, but Tiri's able to win there. At this point, mistake from Vaz. Vaz is still shooting Tiri's AFK warrior. Vaz should really go tag this flag. If you look at how close this time is, with just 30 seconds left, they've still, basically, it's dead even in flags. So if Vaz about 5 seconds ago had moved up to tag that mid flag, I think that could have made a big difference. But it doesn't happen. He's not able to kill Tiri's warrior, unfortunately, because it is a vet. He's able to snipe that, maintain control of that flag. Again, you've now controlled the western flag. You're unable to push Seeker off of either of these flags. And so super close game. I think very back and forth. My commentary is probably all over the place just because there's so much going on. Really, really good Puss, both from Shyster here south to start the game, and then for Homer to really swing things mid. And then a nice fight from Tiri west and mid. From a micro perspective, being able to take out Vass and Donsky. Either of those fights could have gone the other way. I would also say, from a goal pack perspective, as in many of these King of the Map games, Limp did a nice job just being a good distraction. So with that, it is now 2 games to 1, and we will pick this back up for Game 4.